Hi everyone, you're watching the 6.9 Quadratic Formula Notes video. The quadratic formula is yet another way that we can solve quadratics, and it's often the method that we will use if all of the other methods fail. So like you might try to factor it, doesn't work. You might see if it's in the format for using square roots, doesn't work. You might try to complete the square, doesn't work. So we are going to resort to the quadratic formula. The quadratic formula will be provided to you on a reference sheet on all of your tests and on the Regents exam. But here is the formula just so we have it for future reference, this right here. So some of us sing songs to help us remember. I will sing it to you. I will grace you with the song in just a minute. But I do want to talk to you about how there is this nice, beautiful example right down below here where it shows you two different ways of solving the same problem given the directions. And we will talk about that on the next page. But I just wanted to give you guys a little clarification on why this problem here has two answers that are written in two different ways. Okay, so we will maybe reference this, but I am going to go through and do question number one, example number one with you on the following page. So let's go ahead and let's get here. So here it says find the roots to the quadratic function algebraically and round to the nearest tenth. This here is a dead giveaway that we need to use the quadratic formula because we need to round. It doesn't tell me any other way to solve. It just says find the roots algebraically, find those zeros algebraically, and round to the nearest tenth. We will use a quadratic formula when we do not have integer or rational roots. So it will say something like round to the nearest tenth. Another way that I know that it is not solving by square roots is because I have this x term in there, okay? The first step when we solve with a quadratic formula is to figure out what a, b, and c are. A is always the number in front of the x squared. So a equals 1. B is the number that's always in front of the x term, -5. And c is the number that is the constant. You always want to write this every single time, okay? Now we are going to use a quadratic formula, which you're given on a reference sheet, but some of you might remember it with this song that I'm about to sing for you. Are you ready? X equals -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Wow, that was some seriously awesome singing. Okay, so now we have this formula. My next step is to write this equation every single time I see a variable. I'm going to put parentheses. So x equals negative parentheses plus or minus the square root of parentheses squared minus 4 parentheses all over 2 parentheses. Okay, now guess what we're going to do? If you said substitute, you are correct. So let's just start substituting. Anytime I see a b, I'm going to put in -5. B, B. There we are, B and B. Anytime I see an A, I'm going to put in a 1 because that's what my A is right up top here. We're using these guys here. My C is 3. All right, now I'm going to think of my formula as 3 separate pieces. This is piece 1. This is piece 2 underneath that radical, and this is piece 3. So x is going to equal piece 1 plus or minus the square root of a number all over my third piece. -5 is 5. Then I'm going to head over to my calculator. I'm going to add a new document, add a calculator. You should do this with me. So if you need to pause the video right now to go grab your calculator, please do it. Do not be that guy or girl who doesn't follow along. We all know what happens. Not good things. Not good things. Okay. So I'm typing everything that I just typed under the radical. Notice how I didn't put that square root sign in there. Don't you dare put the square root sign in there. Did you do it? Take it out. Okay. Hopefully I scared you. All right, now we're going to put in the square root of 13, and then 2 times 1. We can do that in our heads. All right, now my directions on this problem said round to the nearest tenth. This makes me so happy because I don't have to simplify my radical. Instead, I'm going to use my calculator, and I'm going to find my 2 answers. 5 plus the square root of 13 all over 2, and 5 minus. So pretty print fraction time, control divide. 5 plus the square root of 13 all divided by 2 and hit enter. And we're going to round to the nearest tenth. So the nearest tenth, right, that's what it said, yep. So the nearest tenth will be x is equal to 4 point, it's either going to be 3 or 4. And since there's a 0 next to the 3, x equals 4.3. Now I'm going to show you a cheat. You're going to up arrow. See how it's highlighted in blue? You're going to hit enter. It copies and pastes the whole thing. We'll delete and put a minus sign in there. Make sure that you're doing this with me. Here is my other answer of x equals 0.69722. So we look at the 6. The 9 is next to it, so rounding would be 0.7. Now, if you want to check your work, you can hit Control, add a page. We're going to add a graph here, and we're just going to graph our original of x squared minus 5x plus 3, and hit Enter. Menu, analyze the graph, and then we want to find the zeros. There's one of them. Look at, there's the 0.71. Yay! Menu, analyze graph. Oops. Let me try that again. Menu, analyze graph. 0. And there's my 4.31. Yay. That's how we know that we did it correctly. Remember, we're finding the zeros. We're finding these points algebraically. Okay, so now let's talk about number 2. We're going to do this all again. Hopefully, you remember the steps. Oh, you want to identify A, B, and C first? You're right. A is 1. B is -2. C is -4. All right, quadratic formula. X equals -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, a lot of people try to leave this step off. Don't do it. Write the formula, please and thank you. Okay, cool, let's move on. Remember, to help us stay in check, to check ourselves before we wreck ourselves, write that whole quadratic formula. Anytime you see a variable, put in that little skeleton template. That's not an official math word. I just use this to help me so I don't make any mistakes substituting. A is 1. B is -2. C is -4. Okay, let's simplify our 3 pieces. Remember, x equals piece plus or minus the square root of a number all over the third piece. Well, a -2 is a +2. 2 times 1 is 2. And then what we're going to do, you know the drill, we're going to add a calculator page, and then we're going to type in -2 all squared minus 4 times 1 times -4. Hit enter, and we get 20. Now, Read the directions up here. Simplest radical form. This means we have more work to do. Check out our radical. We got to simplify it. So let's creep on over here. Let's simplify the square root of 20. Remember, we want two numbers that multiply to 20. This dude right here has to be the biggest perfect square factor. So perfect squares, look at this. They're up top here. 4, 9, 16, 25. I'm pretty sure 4 is my biggest perfect square because I don't think 9, 16, 25 is too big. Yes, 4 times 5. And the square root of 4 is 2. So 2 square roots of 5. All right, let's put it back in simplified. So instead of the square root of 20, I'm going to put in 2 square roots of 5 all over 2. And 2 is being divided into each of those 2 plus or minus pieces. So my final answer is x equals 2 divided by 2, which is 1, plus or minus 2 divided by 2, which is 1. I'm not even going to write it because it's like a coefficient. The square root of 5. And there you have it.